Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we are going to be talking specifically about Dungeons & Dragons and the Dragonslayer 1981 movie and what lessons came out of the Dragonslayer 1981 movie. Specifically, what can be learned from that film. I think it's a perfect like lesson vessel for the current Dungeons & Dragons film, which is currently, in my opinion, it could very easily be said to be in development hell. Because basically, it was announced in 2016. Already, it's bounced out of its original home, which was Warner Brothers, and it's currently sitting at Paramount. And right now, there is no talent attached, no director attached, and no script, right? Whereas when it was with Warner Brothers, at least it had a script. It had a script, and I think there was even a point where there was some talent attached to it as well. But it's in trouble, without a doubt. The Dungeons and Dragons movie really is in trouble. It's not doing great, and I think there's some definite lessons to be taken away from Dragonslayer 1981. All right, so first and foremost, you got to recognize. First of all, Dragonslayer 1981 was a well-executed fantasy movie, and it fell incredibly flat. Now, if you think I'm wrong that it wasn't well-executed, it got an Oscar nomination, and it got a Hugo nomination, right? There were serious people working on this movie, and it was very serious film, right? And there was a lot of money behind this movie, and some serious professionals behind it. So, ironically, the Dungeons & Dragons movie is right now trying to get developed through Paramount, right? But actually, there were two studios that created Dragonslayer 1981, and that was Paramount and Disney. They both were involved in the creation of Dragonslayer 1981, which is really quite interesting. But the reality is there was no lack of talent on Dragonslayer 1981. Both of those are major movie studios, and both of those studios are standing today, and that is no small task, right? Like, there are a lot of movie studios. Fox is gone. 20th Century Fox, finito, gone, right? So the fact that, Paramount is still up and around and still kicking is great. Disney, of course, has become the absolute world queen of movies. It's no two ways about it. Like, Disney is just killing it, right? They own Marvel, they own Star Wars, they're just crushing it, right? But one thing you need to understand is Dragonslayer 1981 had a budget of $18 million. It had a box office of $14 million. It actually lost $4 million at the box office. It did not do well. People were not interested. And so one of the lessons that you walk away with from Dragonslayer 1981 is that a well executed fantasy movie falls flat, right? And that's an incredibly harrowing fact for Dungeons & Dragons fans, because Dungeons & Dragons movie is going to be a fantasy movie at some level, right? So that's very sad to hear. Now, I hear you. You're like, well, wait, there's two huge successes in fantasy. And you're 100% right. Lord of the Rings is absolutely a massive success as a series of films, right? Now, personally, and then there's one more, which is Harry Potter. Harry Potter is also a massive fantasy movie success. Now, here's the kicker. Both of these are movies that came from books. And this is incredible. So, get this, okay? They both are very good examples of fantasy movies that are successes, but that doesn't help the Dungeons & Dragons movie. Not in any way, shape, or form. And the reason why is both of those came from world-class writers. J.R.R. Tolkien. He created a modern genre. Modern fantasy is J.R.R. Tolkien. Everybody who's writing fantasy today is simply trying to escape Tolkien's shadow. Like, that's a fact, right? There's just like, he really defined modern fantasy. And he is the wall. Either you are paying homage to him, honoring him in your writing, or you are pushing off against him as a wall. One or the other, right? So, world-class writer there. J.K. Rowling. Again, this story was so strong that basically what it did was it gave book reading and print another 20 years. Like, that's exactly what happened, right? A lot of people, even today, print is under assault. Print is disappearing very, very quickly. And the Harry Potter books were so good that, that they really gave bookstores probably 5 to 10 additional years and really helped print remain robust for 20 years, right? And it's very significant, right? So the thing is, with Dungeons & Dragons, there are no world-class Dungeons & Dragons books. None, right? Like, they're genre fiction at best, and, they really are shadows of Tolkien and Rowling. And if you think I'm wrong, there was literally a period, actually, Wizards of the Coast doesn't even make fantasy books anymore. They literally were like, these are not great. We don't feel that we're doing a good job creating these fiction books. They didn't align with the game, and they were just not great examples of literature, right? And one of the reasons Wizards of the Coast hung it up and stopped doing fiction books. They're like, this is really not helping anybody, right? So, in addition to this, Tolkien and Harry Potter, in order to bring those books to life as movies, took hundreds of millions of dollars, right? And it took the best talent in the industry to do it. And even then, there were people that balked, right? Like, the Hobbit films were widely lambasted. And also continuing the Harry Potter movies has been incredibly difficult. So all that to say, it is not easy. It is super not easy to do a good job with these movies. They're incredibly difficult to make and create, and it's going to be very, very hard to have a successful Dungeons & Dragons movie. And all these lessons are coming straight from Dragonslayer 1981, which in my opinion is absolutely the best Dungeons & Dragons movie that exists, and that certainly includes Dungeons & Dragons 2000, without a doubt. So it's really, I think these are all important lessons for us to just keep in mind. In addition to that, I think the Dungeons & Dragons community may want to, before Dungeons & Dragons is even created, there might be value in the Dungeons & Dragons community repping a remake of Dragonslayer 1981 that could almost be like a practice session for the Dungeons & Dragons movie, right? So here's why. So one, a lot of people say, oh, you don't need remakes. People could just watch the old. Wrong, and super wrong. All right, here's the reason why that is totally untrue. People do not watch old movies, right? And the reason why is all generations are pretty much the same. The pace that stories are told at increases dramatically, right, with every single generation, right? So when I watch movies from the 80s, from the 60s, from the 40s, I'm like, this is slow, too slow. I get impatient and I stop watching them, right? It doesn't matter what talent's in it, doesn't matter how good the story is, the pacing is so painfully slow that I struggle to watch them, right? And I think the vast majority of people are just like this. There's a few people who are, have, really cultured parents and teach them how to, enjoy these super old movies. And God bless them, right? But that is not most people. And the reality is remakes of older movies are desperately needed because you can come and you have a chance at making it better. And I truly believe the Dragonslayer 1981 is absolutely ripe for a remake. And what you could do is you could bring in, actors and actresses. You could bring in a director, and you can get the studio ready and the script writers ready and see what works and what doesn't, and then use it as a practice film for Dungeons & Dragons, and then do the Dungeons & Dragons movie directly after that. So I think there's a ton of lessons. I think, Dragonslayer 1981 really presents a wonderful amount of lessons for the Dungeons & Dragons movie, which I've just elucidated. All of that is my opinion. I'd love to hear your opinion. What do you think? Do you think there's any lessons from Dragonslayer 1981 that I missed? Let me know in the comments below, please. Also, please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.